oh, I don't care whether people like what I do because I'm an artist. Really. Covey would say that that person who says that hasn't really achieved his or her voice, because it isn't your voice unless you are fulfilling a need. So you can feel really good about yourself and all your talent and all the good stuff that you can do on your own, but if you're not fulfilling a need, then you really have not found your voice. That's the issue. In the workplace, Covey says this is what people should expect. That people should, in serving human needs in a principled sort of a way, that meets the spirit need that people have. Covey, by the way, says that there are 4 basic needs that people have, and that is to live, that's the body part, to love, that's the heart part, to learn, that's the mind part, and to leave a legacy is the 4th need that Covey talks about, to leave a legacy. And that really does make sense. And Covey claims that everyone on this planet has the need to leave a legacy, and I believe it. When I talked that way with parents of kids with disabilities who were having trouble with their school district, it was unreal when I was kind of trying to think about why would these parents be acting the way they're acting. It has everything to do with their hysteria about their child because they're the only ones who will be hysterical. In fact, I would say to them when they were really angry with the system, I'm so glad you're hysterical. Then they'd kind of step back, and I'd say, well, I mean that because you're the only one who will be. That's your job. Let's figure out a way to organize ourselves so that we can get the most out of your child's education, excuse me. So the idea is to be used creatively, to be paid fairly, to be treated kindly. That's what everyone should expect according to what Covey talks about. These are firms of endearment that kind of practice this idea. Now, there are interesting ones on here given what's just happened with the economic situation. And it's also interesting from my point of view that we invested a lot of money in a hybrid Highlander made by Toyota, which is wonderful. If you live in Colorado where we live just north of Denver, you have to either have a Subaru all-wheel vehicle, an Outback, or you have to have a hybrid if you're going to be cool enough to live in Colorado, okay? So we invested a lot of money in this car, and it's wonderful. I've been interested in watching, not that Toyota's had the trouble they've had with their recalls, but how they've handled it once this came to light. Now, they should have acted earlier? Yes. Have they apologized for that? Yes. Are they getting more proactive about it? In my view, they are. And I'll tell you what either a creepy or a good thing is. In the last quarter, Toyota made money again. So take that as you will, but that's what's happened. Why would that be true? Do you kind of focus on any of these companies? Yeah, I think some of these companies you probably do. You know some of these companies because they're international companies. Have any of you ever flown on Southwest Airlines? It's a U.S.-based airline. Isn't that the funnest thing to do? They're a really interesting airline, and they do their work in a weird way. You get an A, B, or C to enter the plane. Then you get a number from 1 to 60. So you're A42 or something. And they have this place that has numbers 0 to 5 and then all the way up to 60. And you just kind of get in line at a particular point, go on the plane, and find a seat. And then you sit down, and you get to your next place, and there you go. But boy, the loyalty people have about them, it comes from not only the fact that you can get on and off easily and it's cheap, but you can see that the employees enjoy working there. That's the point that Full and Rather is making here. Whole Foods, has Whole Foods come to Canada? Yeah. They're kind of a good company, aren't they? They're kind of an interesting company. They have revolutionized the way cows go to a feedlot and are slaughtered. They have revolutionized the way that certain kinds of fruits and vegetables internationally now are grown and harvested because of their principles and what they've been able to do to be able to really make an impact on the grocery industry around the whole world. These are the 10 synergistic Southwest practices for building high-performance relationships. I'm not going to go through all 10 of them, but believe me that you can learn a lot by looking at what for-profit organizations have done to be successful over time, as long as you don't take it totally seriously for the work that you do in the not-for-profit sector. Because here's the difference. In the for-profit sector, those organizations like the one that many of us work for who are around this conference, and either as contractor or an employee. They're tightly coupled organizations. That's what most for-profit organizations are. You know, it's really pretty tight. The not-for-profit sector is a very loosely coupled kind of a way of doing business with a lot of customers and a lot of people in charge and a lot of stuff going on. That's really a difference. Jim Collins says that there are as many mediocre for-profit businesses as there are mediocre school districts. So don't always listen to every business that comes in to tell you how to do your work, because it might not work perfectly for you. But I really like in this way the way Southwest talks. Excuse me, especially the last two. You know, making professional organizations or unions your partners, and then building relationships with suppliers. I can tell you that our company is one that is the biggest company in the U.S. that deals exclusively with at-risk kids and the interventions and the technology and the services they need. And the school divisions that are getting the most out of us in the U.S. are the ones who treat us like a partner, and we treat them like a partner. They're not afraid to kind of go from the rebel alliance to the evil empire, you know, of the for-profit sector, and actually find relationships between the public sector and the private in order to make it work. And I'll bet you found the same with other organizations that you're dealing with wherever you happen to work. That makes good sense, I think. So here's the Toyota thing. Do the right thing for the company, its employees, the customer, and society as a whole. Well, they kind of fell down a little bit related to that, didn't they? And now they're trying to fix their reputation, which is an interesting and difficult thing to do. So this notion in Ontario, right where we are, is cited by Fullen as another example of this. The years 2004 to 7, we've had a steady growth in literacy and numeracy achievement in grades 3 and 6, improving 10% or more in reading, writing, and math across the whole system. That's happened not just because of a focus on kids, but a focus on building the collective capacity of the people who work in the school systems here in Ontario. I'm not saying that's happening everywhere. How many of you work in Ontario? Do you find is that happening? The head of your provincial government is called, what is his title? He's the premier. Yeah. When he came in, that's what I think that this is the same person that Fullen's talking about in all of his writing right now. When he came in, that's when Fullen said something really started to click in Ontario. Is that true or not true? Because he really had a clear message about we're going to be one system and we're going to go for it. Is that true? Yeah. You may like him or not. Oh, look at all those things that I have to do. Wow. Oh my God, my wife's birthday is next week. I've got to remember that one, especially. That's a real important issue. Okay, good. Okay. Let's go on if we can. That's intriguing. Now, is this going to work? Let's go. Hello. Are you back? Okay. There we go. Here's another way of sort of putting this. Paul Romer one time said a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. We've got this opportunity right now with this economic deal that's going on around the whole world to really reassess where we are. There's a lot of places in the United States that are facing what the state of Utah has faced forever. Utah has a lot of kids and not a lot of taxpayers, so the one crop that never fails in Utah, according to one of the state superintendents, is kids. And there's so many kids and so few taxpayers that Utah ranks last in the United States in terms of the amount spent per child. But guess what that does? That forces people to really think carefully about the decisions they're making, because they can't make as many mistakes when they don't have a lot of money. That's the benefit to not having a lot of money, I think, is the point of this. So my question for you related to RTI is, how does focusing on the needs of all stakeholders that are involved with producing this system that is RTI-based, how does that change your theory that travels? How does that affect the way you do business, to not just be child-centered, but to be centered on the needs of all the stakeholders? You understand the question that I'm asking? So I would suggest that with the questions that are embedded in this PowerPoint for all of these secrets, you might want to go back to where you work and have a discussion with your colleagues about how this, what the implications are in terms of our leadership for what we're trying to accomplish with RTI. Let's go on to the next secret. The next secret being connecting peers with purpose, and we've talked a lot about a lot of these other secrets in the first part of this morning. So I know that I'm going at the pace I want to be going given the time we have right now. So This is interesting that Fullen says, show me a cohesive creative organization and I'll show you peer interaction all the way down and all the way up. That's an essential thing to have happen, I think. So Fullen says that these are the issues that have to happen if you're going to have success within an organization. And you have to be free of something called groupthink. I am an expert at groupthink because I am so verbal and I'm such an extrovert that I can intimidate people to silence and agreement in a way that is not useful for me and not useful for the organization. I noticed this only after I left state government, that my staff had a script to play every Monday afternoon in the last 10 minutes of our staff meeting. About 10 minutes left to go in the staff meeting after I had tried to facilitate us to a consensus and doing all the things that I think you're supposed to do. One of the staff members would say, Steve, you've been a great facilitator. You haven't told us your opinion, and that's really wonderful. We'd like to know your opinion. So reinforce the boss and then tell him that you would like to know his opinion. I would say my opinion. Then the next staff member's job in the script would be to say, 5 minutes left to go in the staff meeting, you know, Steve, your idea is really a good one. I think we should go that way. And I'd say, are you sure? And they'd say, 1 minute left to go in the staff meeting. They'd say, yes, we really agree with that. That's called groupthink. That's something to avoid. Something easy to have happen to you in the rush of the river to get things done. Retention of practices that work is another part of this whole issue about what purposeful groups will do if they're going to be successful. So he talks a lot about this issue. I'm not going to get into the detail here, but I sort of love this one. This is a good... My administrative assistant did that. Is that cute or not? I think that's kind of a cute thing. Maybe they could use that fish in the Gulf of Mexico to help plug that awful dilemma that's going on down there. Here's what he says leaders should do if you're going to have success with that second secret. So do you notice how Fullen is so consistent in the way he talks? You know, model this high purpose that you want people to have so that these groups can, and these peer groups can have a purpose that is consistent with what should be done to be able to solve the problem you're having. So it's always true that well-functioning groups work better, right? And I really do believe that that's true. And I like that example of what is the real football around the world, you know, rather than the kind of football that's called the National Football League, and how that is such a team thing. It's so geometric to watch what a great football team can do. This kind of football team does. Sort of like what a good hockey team does, actually. It's the same sort of notion where you have to have the right spacing and in order to be able to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. And that really is true, I believe. So the question that I would ask you to ponder in more rhetorical way here, because you have to go back to your organization to talk about this one, is what is the shared moral purpose that bonds you and your colleagues together where you work? The shared moral purpose. I learned a long time ago about strategic planning that the kiss of death for a strategic plan would be to start with, in a strategic planning session, with the establishment of a new mission statement or refining a mission statement. The reason that's true is because everyone has their own individual moral purpose, set of principles that they walk in with. There was a guy named Bill Cook, who's a great strategic planner from the state of Alabama in the U.S., who said this: the way you start strategic planning is by establishing a set of shared principles. From those shared principles, build your mission statement. From those shared principles and mission statement, build your strategies. Then you have a chance of accomplishing them, because now you've established why we're here together. That's the point that Fullen's making. So I ask you to think about that. What is the shared moral purpose where you work? What brings you together? I am very proud of the place where I work, and I wouldn't work in every single school system, and I wouldn't work in every single business. But this is a business that lives by its credo, that if we are not helping at-risk kids to be able to have better lives educationally, then we're doing the wrong thing. And when we do that well, we'll make money. And when we don't do that well, we shouldn't make money. That really is a wonderful place to work because of that one issue. And I hope you have the same sense of passion for where you work. Let's go on to the next secret if we can. The secret number 3 is capacity building prevails, is the name of this particular secret. Now, this is an interesting point. The way Fullen puts it is the capacity